Hello, this is Carol in Chicago. Is anybody there?
Hello?
Hello. Hi, this is Carol in Chicago.
Hi, this is Heidi in Washington, D.C.
Hi, Heidi. How are you?
Fine, how are you?
Good. Are you Heidi Shepard?
I am.
I saw your recommendations for topics for this group when I was poking around in the dashboard. So those sound like great ideas. Tell me what you have in mind for the arts, your arts idea, because here in Illinois we've got a couple of incubators that are solely for artists and artisans.
Really, that's great. Well, there is.
So I'm wondering if they might be the kind of speaker you're looking for, the kind of conversation you'd like to start with somebody. So tell me a little bit more about what your topic idea is.
So my idea is more about, it's about like I know the National Endowment for the Arts has a placemaking initiative.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd like to hear from them about what that can yield for rural communities in particular. But also wondering about other resources, obviously, that could be brought to bear. And then there is a CIRD, Citizens Institute for Rural Design. They're also involved in building up art communities as a way to promote economic development in struggling communities. So those are the sorts of ideas I was thinking of.
Do you happen to know the 2112 incubator outside of Chicago in the suburbs on the west side? They are, I believe, all performing artists in that incubator, 97 different members in their incubator.
No, I'm not familiar with it. That sounds awesome.
I met about a year and a half ago on a conference call. Someone from the governor's office introduced me to the guys there, Scott, and I've got them in my notes if it would be helpful for you to maybe make a connection to them. I know they've been undergoing some kind of ownership transition in the last 6 or 9 months. So I don't know if the guys have bailed and it's now a different concept. But I can send you, you can, perhaps the website will tell the story, and I can certainly send you the contact info. So they're not rural. They're definitely in what you'd call more of the suburban or kind of first ring outside of the downtown Chicago area. They've been around for a while, and I was really surprised to hear that when they told me that they had over 90 artists and musicians as their members. So I don't know how they're organized, in terms of whether people have their own private space that they keep coming back to, or whether it's all shared space, or just how what the thing is. But I'm happy to send that your way if that would be helpful.
Sure, definitely. Do you have my email address?
Why don't you give it to me now, and I'll just put it in this note to myself.
It's H Shepard, SHEPPARD, at
SHEPPARD at
rcap.org.
Okay, great. I'll do it.
Thank you.
2112.
Awesome.
Is the name of it. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad I dialed in a little early. Talk to you.
Well, when I saw that this morning, I thought, I want to, find out a little bit more about what you have in mind. There was also a downtown one, IAEOU, that was for artists, fabric artists, painting artists, as opposed to in the performing space, but I don't think they're open anymore.
And also giving your guys headshots of that. And I would say that if we do a headshot for more of a neutral background, that wouldn't really matter so much of what kind of branded colors we might use on the flyers. Okay, so hi everybody. I see there's a lot of people on the call, and it's Cecilia. I'm driving, so I'm not on video, but I want to make sure that we get everyone kind of situated and on the call. I'm glad that there's been some great conversation taking place before, so thank you for doing that, Carol. And I don't know who you were talking to, so I caught the tail end of the conversation. But we have, I guess our goal for facilitators would be Jeff and Avery, and is Tyler on? I can't tell.
Tyler's not on, but Jeff.
Okay. So I'm just gonna mute and let you and Jeff kind of take it from here, and make sure that we're recording, which we are. Okay. So I think we can play with that.
I'm hearing somebody sounding like.
Somebody may need to mute. I see a lot of background chatter.
Yeah, can everybody who isn't talking, isn't Jeff or Avery right now, can they mute? That would be great.
And I'm gonna
follow that lead.
And I'm gonna put into the chat window here for those who are on their computer the link to the notes document, just so everybody has that.
Where's the link to Avery? This is Carol. I'm on the phone. Tell me, where is it? A Slack link or is it a dashboard link? Where in general are you sending people?
So I just posted in the Zoom chat, but since you're on the phone, if you have access to Slack, it's the most recent document in the Goal 4 channel on Slack, the 4 Connected Networks channel.
Okay.
It was in the email, the reminder that you got this morning. There was a link to it.
Oh, so is it notes from a previous call, or is it just? Oh well,
it's
all right.
It's a running agenda, Carol. So all the notes from all the calls will be in that document for the same goal.
Okay.
And I'm trying to scribe. I've added in that document. I added basically copied the big table with the roll call participants. If you don't see your name in there, if I've missed you, can you add yourself involved too? I'm going to have you add spell your last name out. And I probably got Eric's wrong, or in Carol, I might have messed up on yours, but you're not online right now. But anybody sees and on the call not there, please add yourself.
And always
this is a Slack channel.
I'm sorry, that's in the agenda. So the agenda doc, which unless you're online, you won't be able to see that, but we're just tracking who the participants are, who's on the call.
Okay.
So Avery, I think I'm leaving this up to you. Is that right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
So one thing I wanted to note from the agenda was, in our last call, updates from the project teams actually ended up taking almost the entire hour versus the 10 minutes that is allotted in the agenda. And so I just wanted to check in with folks and see where you're at. Are you more interested in kind of hearing how the different projects are going? Or did you want to be able to dive into a conversation around one of the suggested topics for as a core activity?
This is Carol from Chicago. Well, last time my notes show that Lauren was going to do a canvas for 4.6. So I would love an update on that, because I haven't received one to review and comment on. I haven't seen it posted anywhere. I'm not sure it exists, but it was an action item from my notes last month. I think it was the only action item note I made, but maybe other people took on action items that didn't cross my world the way that one did, since I'm a 4.6 project team person. I'm not sure if 4.6 has had any meetings. I haven't been aware of one. I was under the impression after last month's call that we were just waiting for the new canvas that Lauren volunteered to put together to get that group focused and moving.
So then maybe it would be helpful, maybe part of why the updates took so long last call was just because it had been so long since we'd had any updates. So, so maybe let's do a quick walkthrough, but only of the relevant things that have actually changed since then. And then we can use our core time to dive into discussion. My hope in terms of a goal for this call would be that we can actually brainstorm what kind of main activities or content we would want to be able to discuss in future calls that are around sharing, best practices or learnings about connected networks. And so that is one activity I would like us to be able to have at least 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes to discuss near the end. In the meantime, let's start with some general updates. So Lauren and Cecilia, do you have any just general updates that are relevant for the group here?
I don't have any more general updates, but I can quickly just share regarding the Canvas and some of the comments. So that my intention is still the same. I still intend to create a Canvas and will do so, just as I shared last month. I definitely will follow the same procedures we talked about and share that with everyone on the group here. I wasn't aware that it was due by this call, but it's still the same intention. And so everyone will still be informed. I personally am finishing up one program, which is independent of this here at the foundation, and have a very heavy workload. So I appreciate your patience. So it's taking a little bit longer, but everything is basically the same as we updated there. And so it's just taking a bit longer, but I will certainly loop everyone in when that goes up, and then we'll go through feedback and everything else as we discussed during the last call. So that's my high level update there. If there are any other,
help with managing expectations. Is this something where there should be an expectation that there is progress on this by the next call, or knowing your schedule, that's going to be too much to commit to, or is there help that you might want?
Why don't I? So Avery,
hello?
can I just jump in and just kind of maybe level set for everyone who was or was not on the last calls or at the ESHIP summit or whatnot? So the idea of projects are that that anybody who is interested in pursuing a project that falls under the ESHIP goals should, by all means, follow their energy and create a project canvas. The idea of sharing them, if you'll email them over, we will upload them, is so that there's visibility and alignment. I don't think it was ever the idea that that everybody has to get on and work on a project together. I know like, Jeff, Avery, and Tyler, as an example, have gone ahead and worked on a storytelling hub. It's not something that you need to ask permission or have to get everyone engaged on. The idea is that if there's a project that you'd like to pursue, by all means do so. And the idea of giving an update on this call or being involved in something on this call or whatnot is that if you would like to co-collaborate with other people on it, then please let people know. Otherwise, it's the idea of collaboration is not a forced collaboration, or it's not a pool or a team that has to be formed specifically on this call by the people on the call for the people on the call. But we would love to support in any way. So if you have a project that you would like to engage others or looking for other resources or like to find partners in, then this and the Slack channel would be a great place to do that. So I hope that clears up any confusion or misinterpretation or expectations that have been set. So I just wanted to make sure that that was something that we were supporting. Are there any questions about that, or did that sound like it made sense?
See, I think that does make sense. My understanding is that there was already a collaboration that had been identified in terms of Carol and Lauren both being interested in 4.6. And so the intent behind my request for clarification was so that we can have clear expectations of one another. I think what just came up was Carol had thought that something was going to happen by, within the last month. Lauren did not share that sense of timeline. And so my request was so that we could have clarity. And if, and for example, I think that being clear on that just frees people up. So for example, if Lauren does not think that she's going to have time to do the canvas by the next call, maybe Carol has energy to go ahead and take a first pass at it, so that the burden isn't just sitting on one person to have to create the first draft. If someone else is burning with that energy to move a project or a specific initiative forward. That was the intention behind mine.
Yeah, no, and I think that totally makes sense, and I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that that's exactly that's what needed to be refined and defined. So thank you for that, Avery.
Okay, so maybe I'll just finally kind of clarify this here. So this is an initiative that Kauffman is putting forward that would hopefully address some of the support that we would be able to offer around some of 4.6. I will share more of that. It was probably premature last time to bring that up. In some cases, if there are other initiatives that want to come up, just like Cecilia said, go ahead and start those up. If you're patient and you're curious, please give me at least until early December to bring something. At the very latest, it would be early January, okay? But given all of the different things I have to check on my end and other project workload, and because we have like a team of 2 here, I just appreciate any side chats that you want to have. I know other people have gotten in touch with Andy and I to discuss their thoughts around this. So welcoming any inputs or thinking to that in terms of a full canvas. I'm shooting for early next month now, given the time and the projects on my plate. And we can try to keep each other updated more in advance of that. I hope that that's clear enough at the moment. And then of course, when the project canvas comes out, it'll come with a clearer timeline, milestones, and ways of engagement, I hope clearly spelled out. So that should be much more straightforward once we have that. So hopefully that's helpful. And then in terms of that, Carol, you and I can also talk more directly offline as well if there's things that we want to counsel about in terms of your interest or what you're hoping to do there, because you and I haven't really fully discussed that. And so maybe that's something we can talk about kind of in parallel as those things are getting built up. And that's from me. So kind of back over to you, Avery.
Oh, and just one more, just a little side comment on that. Just think that those 30 initiatives that have been identified as a good starting point are simply 30 initiatives that have been identified as a good starting point. So it's not exclusive to any other ideas that you want to put forward. So if you have something that stretches across the field that you'd like to share, that you'd like to fill out a project canvas and we can share some visibility, that would be great. Also, that there are different interpretations or iterations of an initiative. So it doesn't have to be the one 4.3. There could be 5 4.3s. There's a couple of initiatives that should be one, and those are things like mostly around goal 3. But I just wanted to put that out there too. So you could be working on a 4.3, and 2 or 3 other teams could be working on 4.3. And the idea of visibility is so that we can see if there are replication of efforts, and the idea that is that we're not all operating in silos that aren't communicating. So that's it. Thanks, Avery.
So in terms of other quick updates, Lauren, I think you would also be the person from goal 4.1 in terms of the marketplace, and if there are any updates there.
Sure, yes. I don't have any other additional updates about that either. There are some things on my end in terms of putting that live up on our Kaufman website that I'm working on right now. And otherwise, I don't have any updates from last month. So I think that more will be coming down the pike in the coming 3 or 4 weeks.
Great. Thank you. 4.2, in terms of the shared calendar, I don't have any updates. Co-starters and communities at org have not had a conversation about this yet. Likely won't have a conversation about this until maybe November, just because of fall conference season and being on the road nonstop. But if anyone else has energy around shared calendar, let us know, and that may be able to speed up timeline on that. 4.3, in terms of the new communications channel, as of the last call, there wasn't a specific project team around that. Was there any energy or effort that has emerged in the last month that folks want to share out?
This is Jeff. Not that I'm aware of. I've got a couple other cool projects to relate loosely related to 4.4, but not 4.3.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and hop to 4.4 then.
So yeah, 4.4. So I think there's 3 project teams that are kind of seem to be coalescing. And one of them is an ESHIP 2020, as Annika is calling. Annika Horn as an idea to basically do a series of articles about ESHIP, each of the goals, and include NRPs. And Jess Edwards in Anchorage had an idea about promoting unsung heroes. And those two have kind of become a mashup, and they have created a kind of a brief. So I would say if anybody's interested in those kinds of things, probably want to ping Annika somehow. And the other one is the 6.2 and storytelling kind of initiative with Beth Zimmer and myself and Tyler, and I think a few others I may be forgetting, or kind of figuring out how we can tell stories around PR campaigns, universal support. And that's it.
I have no new updates in terms of the NRP network. Lauren, I think it's the same request from last month, just there's been, hasn't been any news yet in terms of any kind of RFP process. And so given that, those conversations are just sort of on hiatus until there is an update. And so if there's any new information about that, that would be lovely to know.
I'll have to let Andy, I did let him know, but I'll let him know again that there is a request for more information there, more concrete information. What I can tell you on our end, and I think it's still the same from what he shared on the last big webinar, which is that he is focused on creating a more participatory grant making process, because in the end he feels that that will be better for the community as a whole to help be involved in the decision making around any funding that's given out. And that has proved to create some more complications in terms of changing some of the things internally around giving grants here, which are in the end very productive, but it's taking some time. And so I know that that's getting pushed to early next year. And at least in terms of getting that process started up. And so I know that hopefully that creates some clarity for 2019. And then I'll make another note to him in order to give a clearer timeline for 2020. So it is delayed.
Okay, thank you. That is new information and helpful from a planning perspective.
Okay, good. All right. Well, I'll make a note of that. And then can I maybe just ask for one point of clarification?
Yeah.
So I can definitely ask about RFP and funding and making sure that I bring those kinds of updates onto this call. But as on a regular basis, are there other types of updates that would be helpful to this group? Or maybe we can, through the discussion even today, flesh some of this out. Are there other kind of Kaufman related or broader ESHIP initiative related updates that would be helpful for me to kind of bring in on a regular basis? And then I could be a little bit more prepared for our calls, and I'll make sure that I have those updates ready each month. That would be good for me to know, and I can kind of listen for those as we go along. But if you have any thoughts, please just type them into the chat, and I'd be happy to make sure that each month I give some regular updates.
Before we get off topic on this, Heidi had some questions in chat in regards to the 4.5 that we might want to clarify for her in regards to what is 4.5 about and I don't know if we have that in the notes from last month's call.
Yeah, there's some notes from last time. There's also the description and the initiatives. Thanks, Jeff, for tossing that into the chat. Basically, after ESHIP, there were about 3 calls that took place between a subset of the NRPs, definitely not all of them by any stretch, in terms of discussing what it would look like to form a network, what it would look like to collaborate effectively. We were told that that this was an area that Kaufman was considering a priority and explicitly wanted to be involved in. We also came to a pretty quick consensus that none of us had explicit resources or bandwidth to be able to put towards that kind of collaboration without support. And so at the time, we thought that the RFP process was coming in July or August. And so we were like, great, we'll just kind of pause until we hear from Kaufman what they're proposing. It is now October. I will be honest, it's incredibly disappointing to me that there is not going to be any movement on resource disbursements until at the earliest the beginning of next year. I think that's a shame. It's a shame because there was, I think, a lot of momentum and energy after the ESHIP summit, and there are some things that folks can just move forward with on their own, but things like an NRP network are really entrenched and not something that anyone can specifically lead without financing for it. And so I guess that I will reach out to that group because I don't think they know this, and just let them know. And in all likelihood, this group is probably just not going to meet again until next year, unless someone else has resourcing internally. And when I say resourcing, I mean like staff time and energy to do all of the logistics and facilitation and bringing the group together. I will name that Conveners.org does not have that bandwidth at this time.
Avery, maybe one thing I can clarify, since this, I mean, I don't want to put myself out on a stake here, since this really isn't in my line, but since I can maybe create a little more clarity here. If there are initiatives, first of all, maybe before you inform others around the funding timeline or the implications there, it'd be good to loop in Andy and he can discuss it more fully. That would be one thing, just so that I don't say anything incorrect, or I don't want to create any disinfo here. And then the other is, if there are specifically places where you know that there are active things like the NRPs, et cetera, that would be stalled, I think it would be very helpful just to make Andy very aware of that. I know that there are some initiatives that might look different now if the RFP doesn't happen until next year, but maybe in some of those cases there might actually already be support there and it's just not visible. I'm not sure. So anyways, it's a point I will directly check with Andy, ask him to get back to you, but I don't know, especially in terms of the NRPs. I know that there'll be a lot that Christine does, et cetera, over the coming 6 months that could actually be supportive of moving a lot of those things forward. So
okay.
I think it's a good thing just to check, because I don't know that it's, I don't think that things are necessarily dropped. I think that perhaps just some things might be delayed. Anyway, I'll connect you with Andy to make sure that that gets clarified. And I'm sorry for the disappointment.
Well, and I'm happy to do an email out to just Andy, Christine, and Enoch, just to make sure that we all, that we're not bifurcating communication channels. And
right, and just a reminder that is kind of Christine's position, is she is the one who is having phone calls with NRPs on a regular basis to see what their commitments would be or their interest level is in getting involved in the ESHIP goals. So I know that that's an ongoing conversation, and part of Christine's role is engaging national resource providers and culling together that list. So so she would definitely be somebody to talk to about what the progress is on an individual NRP basis.
Lauren, do you want me to CC you on that, just so you're abreast of it?
Sounds very good.
Great, happy to. And then it looks like some other comments have come in on the side chat in terms of your original question of the field-wide updates. Eric was sharing changes to schedule timeline are big. Other bigger news and events or opportunities are useful for that too. Not necessarily a coffin. Actually, Eric, do you want to just share that directly so that we can make sure we're capturing it for the recording?
Yeah, so, and you run a good call, so I appreciate it. And there's always a balance between, speed and speed and content, right? So I think sharing some bigger news, like, so if there isn't a change or, schedules and things like that, if we can get that information from Kaufman to the kind of the call leads, or if there's a rep on the call to share that during that general update, I think that's great. I think also the call leads, possibly working with Cecilia, if we have news about something big that's happened, say, Goal 6 did something that's really cool that we need to know about, I think those things are good to share. But just my general comments on what should be added in the general section.
Thank you.
Since we're talking about timelines, I'm wondering if in terms of just a timeline discussion, next month, I believe, is our midpoint between the last Kansas City ESHIP and the next one. And I'm wondering if we might have an agenda item for next month about any ideas about what we might want to have to either present or get feedback from at the Kansas City ESHIP conference. So 6 months go by in the blink of an eye, and just kind of looking ahead to having that touch point in mind that's coming up fast, and how to either leverage it or make the most of it, or if there's anything in particular that a progress point that we would like to have reached by that time. Maybe next month's goal call is the time to have a discussion about that, and see if anybody has anything in particular that we might use that ESHIP conference in next June as our kind of a goal date, a milestone date.
So, Carol, I can tell you that as far as ESHIP 2020 planning, we have had preliminary meetings on what the content and the framework and such of the 2020 summit is starting to look like. But we're just putting together a presentation for leadership and the board for approval on what things look like. So I can't. When I have more framework for that, I'm very happy to share. But just so you know, ESHIP planning doesn't. It's really because the summit is something that the foundation is running. I don't know what the vision is about bringing other stakeholders and the ecosystem on board just yet. I know that when the pledge was made to do 4 ESHIP summits as opposed to the 3 that was originally proposed, that it was discover, design, deliver, and then this would be like what we're delivering on. But at this point, I can't tell you what that conference is going to look like, because we still have to get board approval and leadership to just hear about the things that we as teams and around the mayor's conference and that has gone on. So I don't want to. I'm happy to share when I have news on that, and I don't know that that's going to happen by next month. Unfortunately or fortunately, things in foundations move very slowly. So not as quickly as some people would like, but I want to make sure that we have time to talk about what we'd like to have take place on future calls and how that goes on. So I want to make sure that in the next 30 minutes that we cover that with everybody that's on the call.
Cool. And so now that it does look like everybody's hopped on, thought it would be helpful to do a quick round of introductions. We were kind of waiting for some folks, and for those who've dialed in by phone, Cecilia, I think you have the power to rename them. Maybe I know I don't.
Not while I'm driving.
Oh, not while you're driving. Yes, please be safe. Don't do things that are unsafe while driving. So with that, was hoping we could just do a very quick round of your name, your organization, where you're based, and what attracts you to Goal 4 Connected Networks.
I guess I'll go first. I'm Katie Gales. I'm with Wake Technical Community College in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I'm interested in connected networks because we have a county-wide footprint, but there's an awful lot in the Research Triangle area of North Carolina going on. And one of our challenges is making sure that we connect everything. So I'm looking to learn how to define that whole thing, and also how to connect networks here, but also how to be part of the bigger connected network of this new profession we are defining.
And if you want to just say someone's name at the end, and then that person can go next.
Hey everybody, I'm Tyler LeCompte. Yep, go.
Sorry. Thanks. I'm Dan Steiker. I'm with New Sun Rising in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're currently trying to explore collective impact. We serve a lot of communities in Pittsburgh and trying to connect them as well as to funders and in between each other. I'm done.
Hey everybody, I'm Tyler LeCompte. I'm in Daytona Beach, Florida, ecosystem builder in the Southeast market, and just working with a lot of the team members in regards to storytelling efforts, how we can share your stuff. So always looking to get an introduction to somebody that the group needs to know. So if I can help you in any way, just let me know. And I will pick Eric.
And if you're going to pick me, I'll show up. Let's see. So hi, Eric Renz-Whitmore. I am newly, as of a month ago, with Forward Cities, working on the ESHIP Communities Initiative. And I am based in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I'm going to go, let's see, is that the right direction? I'm going to go to Jeff.
Hi, Ray Jeff in Sacramento, California. I run a nonprofit here, Startup SAC, to help startups connect and grow and learn. And I am primarily interested because in Go Forward because I have experienced a lot of frustration and experienced frustration as an ecosystem builder, and I want to connect other ecosystem builders to help each other and grow the support network that we need to advance and professionalize the field and get the respect that we deserve. And I will popcorn to Hassan.
Thanks, Jeff. Hassan Bazi in Detroit, ecosystem builder. I work more closely on some of the other goals, but all of the goals are connected. So that's one reason why I'm on the call, and I work in a variety of different areas. And it always amazes me how there's so many networks that operate independent of each other. So even outside of entrepreneurship and ecosystem building. So connecting networks is fascinating to me, and that's why I'm on the call. And I will go over to Jackie.
Hi everyone, I'm Jackie. I'm based in Denver and recently transitioned from running an entrepreneurship center here to being a part of the established team. We produce Startup of the Year, which is happening in Memphis next week, as well as design a number of innovation programs for a variety of clients. Right now we're working with AFWorks, I think you know Joey there, on ecosystem engagement between the Department of Defense and government agencies and startups. So a lot of big challenges. This goal is particularly important to me because I've spent about a decade trying to figure out how to be more efficient and effective in referring startups to the support that they need. And I think that this really could help to improve or enhance that, and that it also supports greater equity in our work. So thanks for having me. Oh, who am I picking? Thanks. Peter.
Hi, this is Peter Gardner. I'm the founder and CEO of StartGrid. We provide a software platform for managing startup ecosystems. It's today primarily used by large enterprises, but as me personally and our team is really passionate about how to not only support ecosystem building for individual organizations and regions, but how to connect those ecosystems to one another. So this is near and dear to all of our hearts. And I'm sure there's a lot that we can learn from the discussion when it comes to requirements and guiding our product roadmap. And I'm pretty sure that I have not kept sufficient track of who has spoken and who hasn't. So forgive me if I don't know who's left.
Okay,
but,
how about
please,
Malta?
someone else dive in.
Malta, you want to go next?
Unmute, yes, sure. So, hi everyone, I'm Valto Loikkanen, and I'm based in Helsinki, Finland, so all the way on the other side of the small pond. I've been an ecosystem developer for a very long time in local ecosystem, but for the past 5 years more helping ecosystem development in different ecosystems around the world. I'm representing Startup Commerce also as a organization company through which we do that, and it's also a what was it called? National resource provider in the ESHIP network, and there's a bunch of free stuff, good stuff that we provide through there. Our interest is also aligned, kind of like we try to find the essence of the most important things that where we can more scalably contribute, and connecting networks is the single, some studies say single biggest factor to accelerate progress and growth. So that's why here, and then inside of the connecting networks, the 4.6 goal about standards goes even at the deeper heart of being able to enable that connectivity, specifically in the context of bringing digital tools and applications to communicate and connect with each other. And inside that standard development, our deepest interest is towards open standard data model. That is something that is very specific and concrete, but also most flexible part to help enable connectivity between application and data sharing between different functions. So, yep, I think that covers. I'll call Heidi.
Hi, Heidi Shepard with the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, or RCAP. We're based in Washington, D.C., but we're a national network of regions around the country that help rural communities. And my main interest in this ESHIP goal number 4 is really to establish more partnerships and collaborations nationally that can help rural communities with growing their economies. And that includes, of course, entrepreneurship and other economic development activities.
And Carol, I don't think you've had a chance to go yet.
Right, Carol Abrahamson outside of Chicago. I'm the founder of the Illinois Incubator Association, State Association. I'm also bringing together the presidents of all 20 state associations into regular communications so that's part of my interest in this. We kind of form a connected network that then other people can plug into as new states create state associations. And then my third project is to create a national venture capital network to make it a whole lot easier for venture capital money to cross state lines and go into all 50 states, largely California. I'm 20 years in Palo Alto and Silicon Valley, so largely it's the California money looking for other places to go. But we'd like to create a national network. And to that end, I'm looking for venture capital and angel investor contacts to invite into this project in every state of the country. So if anybody has some ideas about folks I might contact in your state, please contact me, carol@carolabrahamson.com. And how about Avery for next?
So Avery, based in San Francisco, with conveners.org, we run a global association of conferences, bringing together conveners who are trying to use convening as a tool for change in the world. We also run a global accelerator network called Accelerating the Accelerators. We actually have our workshop coming up on October 22nd, which will be a day-long best practice training for program managers on how to run effective programs. I've been doing a lot of work primarily in Southeast Asia with DFAT around the best practices in incubation and acceleration over the last year and a half. And so many of our members are networks themselves. And so part of my interest in this is, I don't think anyone's totally cracked yet the navigation of information. How do you find what's relevant? How do you share what's relevant? How do you help people, especially in a way where it's more distributed and it's not like a hub and spoke network that's very fragile and where you have to kind of play the air traffic control role, but where folks can quickly and easily find out from one another. And to that end, I'm in conversations with a group about doing a convening next year focused on all the different technology platforms that are coming into being around this question of interconnectivity, particularly as it relates to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And so any connections you have to, or platforms that you've worked with or used or that you know who are helping to build these connected networks and who have an SDG focus, always appreciate introductions there as we start to build out who we want to include for that convening next year. And also obviously working with Jeff and Tyler on the EB Hub platform and trying to tell more stories about what it's like to be an ecosystem builder and the challenges and opportunities therein.
And that was ecosystembuilderhub.com, right, Avery?
Yes, shorthand. Shorthand's not good when it doesn't match your website. Ecosystembuilderhub.com. And then Lauren or Celia, did you want to share?
Sure. Hi, everyone. It's nice to meet many of you and also say hi to the people that I've met before. I'm Lauren Higgins and I'm working at the Kauffman Foundation. I'm currently kind of part-time on the ecosystems team and I'll be full-time starting next year. My focus right now is primarily on the Ecosystem Builder Playbook. And in the new year, I will also start working more around Goal 4 and some initiatives that Kauffman can do to support some more convening and support some more of the discussions that need to happen around some of these critical areas around Goal 4 and standards, etc. So you'll be seeing more of me as my role gets activated more in the new year, but I'm here kind of getting my feet wet and it's nice to meet everybody.
Okay, and taking myself off of unmute. I'm Cecilia Wessinger, and I'm one of the ecosystem building ESHIP community activators in support of all of you who are working in your custom and bespoke ways to support the ESHIP goal efforts. So my focus is ecosystem building practitioners. My colleague Christine works with national resource providers, and we are your scaffolds holders to help host these calls and make sure that things are connected on Slack and Facebook and keep up the dashboard so everybody's up to date. And you can reach us at eshipgoals@gmail. So that's just a generic outside of the Kauffman world repository of places to ask questions and whatnot. And I think I've gotten to
Sounds like we might have lost your connection there, Cecilia.
to speak to or all I do is but so let me know how I can help. Back to you.
Thank you. Great. So for the last 15 minutes of our call, was hoping that we could jump in to understanding like what are the meetup activities or curated content that would make this call worth your time. And so, for example, you know, Heidi had dropped in that being able to have a conversation about rural ecosystem builders, who they are, maybe how we can get them connected is a question. Another was incorporating the arts and culture into building entrepreneurial ecosystems so that it's not just maybe an overly tech focus, but it includes, you know, how to connect in those arts and culture communities. Are there other topics or ask offer exchanges or structures that would support you in getting your needs met as an ecosystem builder and in learning the best practices of connected networks?
I feel like what Valto does as a global resource provider is super interesting. It would be great to have Valto and Chad, who's the Global Entrepreneurship Network Manager for Australia, talk about how things are structured. I think that Valto talks about the consistency and the commonalities that that they work towards, and there's a standards and things like that. So I know one of the initiatives is Forest Standards Board. So hearing about best practices and how they got to those things would be super interesting. That's on a very selfish note, so I'm just going to put that out there.
So basically, if you want me to contribute on that or share some of that, we have connected also with Chad, who is the managing director, interim, I think now for Australia. But we met in ESHIP, and we have of course conversed also earlier. But he has been working a lot with the data collection in the ecosystem and trying to assess that, and with his new role also even more involved with the connectivity aspect and other aspects of the entrepreneurship ecosystems. And we are moving forward anyway on the collaboration in helping to initiate this open standard development specifically for data model. And we are trying to invite the parties who are interested in being part of that or contributing for that to keep making progress, and then hopefully it will also find its right place to attach to right places when those places are in forming or coming to shape. But we feel that it's important to regardless to keep moving forward and keep creating things so that then others can also build on top of those. And around we have circulated, we have separately validated the need around one of the most liquid data asset in each of the ecosystem, which is startup events or events in general, that they are the most dynamic, fluid, and high volume information that flows in the ecosystem. So we're starting with a very simple approach of looking to standardize how events data models should look like, so that then at least that's a starting point. And then the point is to get that work moving, but it's also is how to get kind of the activity structured around that. And yeah, so we're just kind of trying to push forward so that there's something that then others can also attach to if they want. And at the same time, we really hope that there is a right place that it will eventually land, because we are just pushing it forward. We don't want to get stuck with it as the only provider and the pusher of forward. One of the key aspects also is that we really hope that there will be global standards that are not going to be national silos that will then make it annoying, like the electric outlets and how cars driving different lanes in Australia than they drive in Finland and so forth. So the standards really that when we are starting to create those, that we would get started on the right foot in that sense, and they don't become only nationally considered, but also globally considered for everyone's benefit.
Thank you, Valto. Anyone else have topics that they want to see this group cover in future calls?
I've got just an idea popped in my mind. A lot of it seems like a lot of all the goals, a lot of projects are having a tough time getting kicked off, and I think it's just because of the distributed nature, and we're all doing other things. So I'm wondering if someone who has expertise in open source projects, some of the open source software projects, for example, might be able to come in and talk about how to motivate, how to manage these huge crowdsourced mass collaboration, open source volunteer type projects.
That actually really resonates with my comment that I made in the chat too, which is that I would, it's a really specific example, Jeff, and I really like that. I would love to hear, for example, how did the open standards movement come about? I mean, that is a wonderful way to start thinking about an approach to standards, including data, but also standards of governance, etc., for more decentralized collaborations and networks. So I would love, like Jeff is saying, I would love to look at some of these cases around the world about decentralized collaborations and networks, and look at some good cases and rap about those and learn with everybody here, see what we can glean from those cases, maybe bring some of those folks to come and have an hour-long chat with us, interview them, and get to know these situations better. There are lots of collectives or projects out there that I'm sure would be willing to come and chat with us. And I think we learn a lot. And then we can also share, you know, if we end up recording one of those talks, we can share that with the broader network as well, because that knowledge can go beyond just this channel here if we end up doing some kind of a webinar of sorts. And I would really get a lot from that.
I like this idea. I think echoing what Eric was putting in the chat as well, of calling in some external expertise into these groups and giving us a chance to have a dialogue with them about what's working or what's not. You know, there are definitely quite a few cases of groups that have gotten together, and how do you wrangle people when they are distributed and when they have, you know, varying objectives and goals and priorities for their day jobs? This is a core question.
So I can share some thoughts. I'm by no means expert on the topic, but I can share some points specifically from the open source development world, and so few things that I think that is also relevant and present here in the ESHIP efforts is that the challenge how to connect the top-down and bottom-up type of activity in general, because they come from very different place. And typically when bottom-up gets more active, it's so that the activity, that there's some base values and shared things in the bottom. And then on top of that, more structures are built when they are needed, instead of trying to design the structures up front and then design everything kind of from top down. That's just the generic thing. Why open source software has been successful is that many of those are creators, so they actually produce more than they talk. As a developer, just mindset are like that. And they also quickly realize that to get a software to work, they have to get the code to fit, and it's a lot of by building a system where everyone can be independently productive while contributing for common goal without needing to ask a permission, and instead there's a kind of a fix it afterwards model where then it's kind of like Google Doc. You can go back to the version and remove something that was wrong, But other than that, it's assuming that it's right. And people will follow the kind of the guidelines and instructions. So that's some of the things, but by all means, that's very, very light and not coming from having run those open source projects, but having observed and being part of many of those.
We only have about three minutes left. So if other folks want to drop in at the top under where Heidi had her topics, if you want to be the specific lead for that conversation, doesn't mean that you're the expert on that topic. It just means that you want to be the convener for that call, and then putting the topic down. And I'd maybe add within the suggested topic, if there is a specific person or type of person that you want to be able to connect with, then I think the group has a little more focus for being able to suggest specific individuals or tap our respective networks, like Jackie did, to say, okay, hey, I know Dan, maybe he could be interesting in this. And so I'll make that request for folks to add that. And this is on page 1 at the very top of the notes document. And once we've done that, then we can start to actually map out for future scheduled calls so that folks have a sense of, especially if there's a topic coming up that they particularly want to engage in, they've got some direction on that. Any other thoughts or questions before we head out? No? Well, thank you all so much for your time today. Always a pleasure to see you all. I'm going to do my best to capture this chat and pop it into the bottom of the notes so that we don't lose all these great links and things.
On that, when they record that, that should automatically save the chat session. That could be copied and pasted in.
That would be awesome. I think that would go to Cecilia or to whoever owns
I can do that.
Yes,
if it's in the chat, then I'll take out all the private whatever that there may or may not be, but I'm very happy to add that to the transcript.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Really appreciate it.
Sure. It's my job.
Lovely. Well, I hope everybody has a wonderful month and talk to you in November.
Thank you.
Bye all.
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone. Have a wonderful one.